Hello and welcome to a Profoto Academy live special from Botswana. I'm down here in Botswana doing a project or helping Tom Svensson, who is a conservation photographer, and I'm helping him in a very special project that we will talk more about in a later stage. It's a little bit too early to talk about that. So far we've been here about 7 nights, and we work mainly during night to take some spectacular pictures of animals. And since I'm here with Tom, you might guess that we're working with lights, which we are. And I'm actually going to talk about a couple of things that we're doing besides or how we're working and what gear we're using. I'm now not in the bush, which you can see behind me. I'm at a place called Leopard Plains, which is close to Maun in Botswana. And they have kindly let us use their lodge to record things like this, recharge batteries, and also take a shower, which is nice, because we have, which you can see on this picture here, vultures flying around our base camp, and then when they come, then we know it's time to go into the base camp to take a shower, and then they leave us alone for a couple of days, and then we stay out there. Photographs that we actually had shot during the dawn, and the light was not perfect, the ambient light, and you would have to push up the ISO really high. So I actually used a B2 to give a little bit of fill light from straight ahead in order to get the details and get the giraffes really good exposed. And here you see another picture of 3 giraffes standing really close. They were very curious, and they were looking at us, and we were of course looking at them. And for me, since I'm not the nature photographer, which you can see in these pictures, I was very excited, of course, seeing these kind of things that are not in a zoo, because that's also something that we probably need to point out. We are in the middle of the wilderness, and it's really not a park that you might find in a lot of parts in Africa, where the animals actually habitated, so they're used to humans, and therefore they get really close. These are really wild animals, and they're very skittish and very afraid of us. But these 3 bulls actually were kind of happy to pose for us, and they got a decent series with shooting with the B2 on these ones. And here you see on the next shot, we see a spotted eagle owl. Don't ask me why a bird can be an eagle and an owl at the same time, but apparently in the bird world they can. And we caught that one as we were tracking down animals, or we're following tracks of different animals to see kind of where they are and where they're at, whether they drink water, whether they feed, so that we can place cameras and shoot them. But so enough of my touristy pictures that I take kind of in between while Tom Svensson are taking the real pictures. And he is working on this night project that is technically very difficult. So it has a lot of parameters that can and will cause some trouble. But we've been honing the technology and really working out the different difficulties in, because this is all brand new. These pictures, this type of picture have never been taken before, so we managed to get the quirks out of the system. But since he's also a photographer, he doesn't get satisfied with only those. We also spent some time at the waterhole, actually this morning after a long night. So here you see a picture of some impalas approaching the waterhole. You have a male one here with a whole bunch of females around him, and they're kind of curious. It looks like they're looking at the equipment that we have, but they're at least approaching the water. And here the sun is coming kind of straight from camera left from the back. So here Tom actually used an A1 with a half CTO as to light up the front of the animals. And also you see here on the next picture there's a whole bunch of them, and they're coming down to drink. They're leaving the space right in front of the camera here empty because they're probably a little bit careful, because we try to camouflage everything with leaves and so forth so it doesn't look, but it's a different structure and it looks different from how the waterfall looks like on a normal day. So they're still very careful. They're drinking way out here on the far right and no one here in the middle. But they'll get used to that, and hopefully we'll be able to catch some other animals as well besides the impalas. And here we have the last picture where you actually see two females coming up close and drinking, which I think is a magnificent shot. This would not have been possible to take without using the A1 as a fill light. And as you can also see on the light here, it doesn't look flashy at all. And as a nature photographer like Tom is, they're very, very picky with how the images look like, and he wants this kind of natural look and feel, but still get the details and the beauty of the animal. But I think really here we managed to get the perfect balance of the light and the ambient light to really get the best out of the impalas here. But now, so let's take a quick look and look at the gear that Tom is using. Oh no, wait a minute. Let's look at my gear first of all. So when I shot the giraffe and the owl, I used this little guy here. You had to use a Canon camera, and then I have a Canon 2400 with a built-in converter, 200 to 400 millimeter lens, which is a beast, and you also have a built-in converter, which is good for 1.4 extra, so you go all the way up to 580, so you can get really close with that guy. And that's the one I used together with the B2 and blast away on those poor giraffes. Actually they kind of looked as they enjoyed it, and they were not skittish and didn't run away when the flash went. I guess it's too fast for them to really react. They were more afraid of me and the car. I'm also shooting with the 1DX Mark II, which is a fantastic camera. I really enjoy that one. What else? I do use Manfrotto's Be Free stands, which is a graphite fiber stand, which is very lightweight, which you probably understand is very, very important for me when I'm out here in the field, because I cannot really carry that much with me. So everything has to be lightweight, and since the lenses are so big and bulky, I need to make sure that everything else weighs as little as possible. So that was my little gear, and then Tom will go through his kit in a later episode as well, and then you'll see more in detail what he's using. But I'll talk a little bit about the kit that he's using for these specific pictures. So what he had is an A1 flash standing on a Manfrotto Pixie way down low. We had a half CTO filter on the A1 to give a little bit of warm colors on the impalas. And then next to the A1 he had his camera. It was not this one, because Tom is actually out and about shooting, so I'm using my second camera as a placeholder. But he's using a 5DS to shoot this specific picture. And then he had a wide angle lens to go with that one. I think this one was taken with a 11 millimeter. That was an 11 millimeter zoom, that was the 11 millimeter wide angle. That was difficult to say. And then he has a trigger or a cable that goes to a regular Profoto AirSync, and this one gets the signal from this guy here, and that one transmits. So whenever he's standing far away from the animals, and he can see the water hole, and then whenever he sees a good picture, then he hit the test button, and then boom, it sends the signal to the trigger, and the trigger triggers the camera, and then at the same time you have the Air TTL remote triggering the flash. So there's a lot of triggering going on here. But with that, he can stand from a distance and let the animals calm down, approach the water hole, and then boom, click whenever he sees a good shot. So that's really an exciting setup. Fairly simple. You have two air syncs or air remotes. You can use either air remote or air sync. Both of them work. In this case, we had one air remote and one air sync. You can have any combination of these two. And then we have the regular air remote TTL to trigger the flash. And then you can put the flash wherever you want it. You could have had it on camera as well if you wanted, but in this specific case we wanted to have it slightly coming in from the camera left side to give it a little bit of three-dimensional depth, and I get some decent shadows. And as you also can see that we put actually the light on the left side of the camera because the sun is coming from the left on the back, and that's also one key thing to consider when you are setting light, is to look at what's happening in the background. Where is the light going to come from, and then try to set the lights from the same direction, because then it looks much more natural, which we all want to achieve. And if you would have set the light on the right side of the camera, then it would have come from the opposite side of the sun, and it would have had a strange look at it. So that's why it's always good to consider to look at what's happening with the sun and the light in the background. And this little fellow over here is my handgun. That's the one I'm running around with. It's a Canon G7X, and that's the one I'm using to shoot if something interesting happens. No matter where I'm at, it's always in my pocket. And I think that's about it with regards to equipment. I do have A1s with me, I have B2s with me, and I have B1s with me. But so far, we haven't used the B1s at all, because already the B1s or the B2s are strong enough, and the B1Xs are actually a little bit too strong for most of the shooting that we're doing, since we're doing it in dusk, dawn, or during the night. We're not shooting in the middle of the night. That's when we try to sleep a little bit. And also on a few of the night shots, since it's completely pitch black here, there's no light pollution at all. We are way down on the A1's power level. So we're down at the power levels of 2, 3, maybe 4, depending on the distance that we're using. But we are way down lowly in the register. So even at a few places we've had shots where it was a little bit too strong, so we had to put a little bit of a filter on it to get it lower. Or you can also move it back like half a meter or a meter, and then you'll be all set. But it's really exciting to try light with wildlife, and what I've learned is that it's a bit tricky with the wildlife photography as well, because the animals don't always collaborate with you. We've been following all kind of leopard tracks, hippo tracks, hyena tracks, and what have you, all kinds of animals. And we set everything up, and then you can see whatever animal we were shooting that day, they might be walking right next to it, and is completely ignoring the path that we would like them to take. So, or there's no tracks at all the day after when we set everything up. So we'll keep on shooting. We have got a couple of really spectacular shots already, but we're going to be here for another 7-8 days, so it's going to be even furthermore exciting things coming. And after we come back in August. I think it's around the 15th, 16th. On that Wednesday, we'll be back in the studio and we'll have all the Academy Lives running as usual. So that's it. If you have any questions, pop them in underneath in the comments, and regarding the gear we're using or settings or so forth, and I'll be more than happy to respond to them. But I'm not that fast in responding, since we are about 2 hours drive from the closest cellular tower, so we don't have connection that much because we are truly out in the wilderness, so we are disconnected when we're out in the bush. But whenever we get close to the tower, we hook up and we sit there for a while and respond to questions and comments and so forth. Okay, thank you guys, see you soon.